Welcome back. We do apologize for that short, long one, by the way, trying to get a few things sorted out so we can have good programming for you. But let's get straight to one of our very top conversations that has to do with cryptocurrency in Nigeria. And the issue of crypto has been quite a while. You know what happened to Binance and during the era of Emefiele, the former CBN governor, and the federal government. There's been a lot of confusion sometimes when it comes to cryptocurrency, which is why we're bringing it to the fore, because right now, some of the coins are doing pretty well, and people are feeling like Nigeria should cash in. But how do you cash in into something you really don't understand? How do you cash in into something that is controversial, if you will? I even know that some big banks, MDs or CEOs like JP Morgan CEO, Jamie Dimon, he said crypto or cryptocurrency is a fraud. So there's so many conversation around that area. So today is going to be more of an explainer, education, query, understanding, investigation, if you will. And we're being joined in the program by the president, stakeholders in Blockchain Association of Nigeria, Cyber, Mr. Obi Naiwuno. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Naiwuno, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, Mr. Obina, so you saw the foundation I laid as far as this conversation is concerned. So let's take the simple path, which is the explainer part. Let's begin from there so that we can lay a bit of a foundation. I know cryptocurrency, blockchain, and all of these terminologies have been thrown around, but it looks like some persons understand it, some people don't want to understand it, some people think it's a fraud, some people think it's a back way to Yahoo, some people think it's the future. There are so many interpretation as to what this is. So maybe you pitch to us and to the people who are doubters of this what it is before we get to what is going on in that space and the appeals to maybe get involved to hedge against inflation and make some money.
All right. So how do we talk about cryptocurrency now in a way that's the layman on the street will understand? So I think that it's important for us to look at first what the evolution of money has been, from the era of trade by barter, which is the first means of exchange known to man, where you give me rice for beans, and you give me yam for potatoes. But that system was not perfect because sometimes I want rice and what I have is yam, and then I find the person who has rice, but what he's interested in is beans. So you see, there was a limitation, and then men moved to another means of exchange, which is, cowrie shells. But it has its own limitation because it was not produced through any economic activity or through any value chain. In fact, you could literally find it by just walking by the seashore. So you find that a lot of people would have these things in large quantities. And when there is an oversupply of money in the economy, what that leads to is the loss of value, And so man tried to pivot and said, okay, maybe we should use gold as a means of exchange. But the limitations with gold, of course, gold worked, but the limitation is this, that every man came to the market with their own weighing scale. So how do I know that your scale is standard? How do you trust that my own scale is standard? So there was that issue of lack of trust in that system. And also gold is heavy because it's metal, it's heavy to move around. So it wasn't a perfect system for exchange. And then we moved to the era of coins. Now, as at then, no coin was minted through any economic value as long as you have power. In fact, if you conquer a country, you can mint your coin and give to them as their means of exchange. And then that wasn't also perfect, right? And then man was always trying to revolutionize, or to perfect the exchange system, right? So that it is easy for people to transact. And that's how we moved on to, the banknotes, to cards, electronic payments, and now to cryptocurrency. But what makes cryptocurrency different from the other forms of means of exchange that you see is that cryptocurrency is both a means of exchange, an asset of value, and a technological innovation. Now, we are currently in the fourth industrial revolution, like they will tell you all over the world. And one of the characteristics of this fourth industrial revolution is the increase in technology advancements and innovations. And then what you find is that there has been a progress from the internet that we are used to what we call the Web3, which is the third generation of the internet. Now, this Web3 is the decentralized space. And because it's decentralized, it enables you to be able to hold assets in digital forms and also share assets in digital forms. And another beautiful thing, which is actually the most important feature of Web3, is ownership. So whatever digital value that you put online, you own it. And so if anybody needs to access your digital assets, they have to go through you. They have to be granted the permission. And whatever value is being derived from it would always be a shared economy, right? It's always a shared value. You derive value from them using it, and they also derive value from using what you have. And so that is how it works. Now, how do we make sure that this thing is effective? There has to be a system of security and checks and balances. And to maintain that security line, there has to be an incentive model. And that incentive model is where tokens, digital tokens comes in. And these digital tokens is what we know as cryptocurrency today. Now, these digital tokens are secured by cryptography, which makes the security tamper-proof. And that is why it would be difficult for you to have ever heard that there was a blockchain network that was hacked. Okay, now, the beautiful underlying infrastructure supporting all of these things is the blockchain technology. And cryptocurrency is the tokens for maintaining security on that blockchain network. Now, with the rise in demand in the services and the products that or the capabilities of these blockchain networks. And what is blockchain? Blockchain is simply a digital record of transactions. Now, the difference between this digital record of transactions or digital ledger and the normal software ledger that you have is that this one is tamper-proof, it's immutable, it cannot be changed, it cannot be deleted, right? And it is secure, decentralized, open, transparent for everybody to see. So this is where cryptocurrency comes in. It was actually meant as a system of payment within this blockchain network and ecosystem. Of course, the new first one, which is Bitcoin, was made as an alternative means of payment. But beyond that, it was actually created to moderate and regulate this technology called blockchain.
All right. Despite the reports about the possibility of it cashing out because these are good days for crypto, reports say that the penetration levels for crypto in Nigeria is relatively low as against what obtains particularly in the West. What are the factors that you think is contributing to this low levels of acceptability of cryptocurrency as a store of value? Which trumps the other, more importantly? Because we could say that we have a fair idea of the controversy that trailed the arrest of the Binance executive, reports about it being a conduit pipe and all of that. But still, there's money to be made. So which trumps the other in terms of factors contributing to the low levels of penetration of crypto?
Well, I would disagree with that report that says there is a low level of penetration of crypto in Nigeria compared to the West. In fact, there has been several reports concerning Nigeria globally when it comes to crypto, and you will never see Nigeria fall below the first three. When it comes to crypto adoption, there was a time Nigeria was at the top. When it comes to interest in crypto, Nigeria has always been at the top. In fact, there was a time on Google when Google released its search ranking, and Nigerians were the most searched nation for cryptocurrency. Then when you talk of adoption, 60% of Africa's entire adoption as a country, over 60% is from Nigeria. So Nigeria is number one in Africa, number two globally. Sometimes we fall to number three, but Nigeria has never fallen below the third position. Then currently, there is a report that was just released this week about the ownership of mobile wallets, mobile crypto wallets globally, and Nigeria is number two, just right after the US. When it comes to trade volume, that is the only place where you can say that Nigeria will fall a bit below. Not because our trade volume is not high. In Africa, our trade volume is the highest. But because of the purchasing power within the economy, it is not as high as what you would obtain in the West. For example, one institutional trader in the US can do Nigeria's entire volume as a country in a year. Only just one institutional trader. So that is the only place where there is a difference. And it is the same all over Africa. But to say penetration, in fact, your co-host earlier mentioned about the issues during the time of Emefiele. I will tell you that single circular that was released by the CBN governor as at then, restricting banks and commercial banks and financial institutions from offering transactions to individuals and organizations that deal in cryptocurrency, led to an increase in crypto adoption in Nigeria than the opposite, right? Because as at then, more people began to hear about crypto. More people began interested in crypto. For example, 5 years ago, we couldn't be discussing cryptocurrency on channels. But look at the way it is today. Everybody is talking about crypto, right? So when it comes to adoption has grown. The penetration is big. The only hindrance here is this. Because of the lack of regulatory clarity, which the SEC is currently addressing, and the lack of a national action plan, which of course the Federal Ministry of Communications through NIDA is also addressing through the National Blockchain Policy, right? We haven't seen that widespread, because if there was a national action plan about it that was clear from the beginning and efforts was put together to make sure that it is supported and it works, we would have at least 50% of Nigeria's population knowing about cryptocurrency and talking about it. And it is possible because over 60% of our population is made up of young people. And who are the people leading this crypto adoption in Nigeria? It is actually the younger generation. It is not the older generation. So getting 50% of our population is possible. Now, look at it. We are the first country in Africa to have a national blockchain roadmap and policy. There are only 9 countries in the world with that. Even the USA is not one of them, right? It is the election victory of President Trump that is hopeful now that the US will come and take a lead. Because if the US starts an action plan, trust me, they will take the lead. And look at just him winning election, what it has done to the crypto market, okay? So that is one step that has been done. If this has been action on earlier, we would have seen a wider rate of adoption than what we have
good point. If I may comment, good point you've raised. But I'll take the posture of the naysayers for a reason. The reason why reserve banks and even central banks sometimes have problem with crypto and all of this is because they print money. They want to control the money. They want to know where the money is, because monetary policy rates are used to control, they used to stabilize the economy and also taper inflation. Someone says that if the freedom you seek is a freedom from responsibility, then you will never be free. So this level of decentralization make central banks and reserve banks squirm on their chairs at the end of the day. And then when we look at the appreciation, I remember less than 2 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, there was a time Bitcoin crashed to like $16,000 per coin, and now it's doing 91,000 or so. I think the highest in the history of that coin. It's literally a bullish run, over 500% appreciation from that 16,000 to 9. Now, people are...
It actually did 93,000.
93,000. So you can see it keeps appreciating. And the fear of pump and dump, which is where people are suspect. So I don't know what form of investment you have that in 2 years or less than 2 years it appreciates to that point. But do you see the reasoning of the Reserve Bank and people that have reservations about cryptocurrency before we talk about the drivers of why it came to where it is today?
Okay, so it is first of all important to understand what the rules of the reserve banks are, and also to understand what crypto is. Cryptocurrencies are not legal tenders. All right? Bitcoin is not coming to replace Naira. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are simply digital assets that now has three functions. Like, one, it is an asset, a store of value, a means of exchange, and a commodity of trade. So you can trade it as a commodity, just the same way you can trade your stocks and bonds as a commodity, just the same way you can hold stocks and bonds as a store of value, just the same way you can hold them as assets if we tokenize it for you, all right, and issue it out as tokens. Okay, so it is important that we understand this clear difference. It is not a threat to the local fiat currency. It has never been. Okay, so that distinction needs to be made very clear. Now, you talked about the rise and the fall in prices. If you understand it as an asset and as a commodity, then it is expected that you would also see these fluctuations in price, because the law of demand and supply will always affect it, just like you see in other sectors. All right, so when there is high demand, it will go up. And what happens to people who invest into these things for profits? Once they make profits, they are going to take profits. Now, what happens when they are taking profits? There is a selling off in the markets. And if there is now a supply of sales in the markets, the price is bound to come down, because a lot of people are offloading to get out the profits that they have made. And then they repeat the same process again, which is nothing different from what we are seeing in the stock markets and other sectors of the economy. So it is not something that is peculiar to cryptocurrency. It is a general thing. All right. So the reserve banks do not need to begin to fear cryptocurrency, because look at the nation of El Salvador is holding cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, as part of its reserve. From the time that Trump won election till now, it has increased their foreign reserve by over $2 billion. All
right. All right, Mr.
So it is not a national currency that they are holding. They are holding it as an asset of value, an investment for the country. So there is really no need for that fear or that misconception about the whole role that cryptocurrency plays. Now, when you talked about decentralization, the decentralized part of it is the underlying technology, the main infrastructure that makes cryptocurrency possible, which is blockchain technology. This is where they are missing the point. The focus should be on blockchain technology, not on cryptocurrency. For cryptocurrency to be made possible, it has to be supported and backed and built on a blockchain technology. And what makes blockchain technology a preferred option, because of its security and transparency, it established trust, which is what the traditional financial system has not been able to achieve. And why that trust was able to be established is because of this decentralization. The decentralization does not mean these people want to practice without being responsible. It means that you can trust the system, right? That, for example, if I put my digital assets on AWS that is owned by Amazon, Jeff Bezos. If Jeff Bezos is angry with me and he does not like my pace, he can block me from accessing my assets. But on a blockchain network, nobody can do that, because what you have is decentralized nodes who are maintaining the system, and there are thousands and tens of thousands of them scattered across the world who are not in communion with each other. They are not in a consensus with anybody. What we trust is the code. And for any decision to be made on the network, there has to be a 51% agreement that this thing is.
And so much to follow up on, Mr. Ewuno. So much to follow up on. We could talk about regulation and whether, if our own, policy is a guarantee for those who would want to come and invest in blockchain, cryptocurrency, infrastructure, or even companies in Nigeria. But talk to us about the drivers of the bullish trend of crypto in the country. And as you do that as well, for many Nigerians who want to invest, they're looking for areas to invest, but because of the lack of understanding of how crypto works and the uncertainties around crypto, and that's why I asked that question, by the way, about low penetration levels, although you have quoted other reports, but some reports say that penetration level as against countries like India and the United States in Nigeria is low. But so talk to us about drivers, and as you do that as well, perhaps we could also have an understanding about how to go about investing in crypto for those who do not understand it.
Okay, so the drivers, the drivers are basically the young, curious, tech-savvy population of Nigerians. Right? So these are the major drivers. Secondly, the second major driver is the economic stability of Nigeria and the inflation level. Right? Because if I engage in cryptocurrency trading as an investor, as a speculator, whatever it is, now, crypto market is a global market. Right now that we are awake in Nigeria and maybe performing trading activities online, there are people in other parts of the world who are investors in crypto that are sleeping. So the market goes around 24 hours non-stop. And so you see the ability to be able to earn money in USD, because if it's a global market, we know that the world reserve currency is the USD. And now we know the value of what the USD is to the Naira. This is a major driver. Economic stability, economic power, economic emancipation. All right, people want to be able to thrive in this economy, and they have seen crypto as a means to help them do that. And so they are interested. It is no longer young people who are interested in it currently. There are also middle-aged players in the crypto sector. I mean, we had a program earlier this year, and some of the attendees of our programs were in their 50s and 60s, and they were all curious to understand blockchain, to understand crypto and how they can play in the market. So because Nigeria has a teeming young population that is energetic, hardworking, and many of them do not have jobs, of which the crypto sector has created millions of jobs for young Nigerians. They are the major drivers. And then the economic situation of Nigeria is another contributing factor to it also. Then we talk about financial inclusion, where we find out that a lot of people are financially excluded from this system. And crypto has breached this barrier. And then we talk about some things, some financial services that people could not get access to, because when you approach the traditional financial institutions, they request for your head and your leg for you to be able to access them. We have decentralized finance in the ecosystem offering all of that.
We must wrap up this conversation
so there is a long chain of drivers, but one of the drivers that is not yet seen is funding, and of course a national action plan that is concerted towards the development of blockchain technology first before we talk about cryptocurrency.
That's exactly the reason that this conversation has been productive, as it has set agenda for national policy and indeed, instructive for those who want to invest, that there are areas, where money can be drawn from in spite of the economic difficulty that we currently find ourselves in. Mr. Obinna, thank you so much for coming on the program. We've been talking with the president, stakeholders in Blockchain Association of Nigeria, CBAN, Mr. Obinna Iwuno, who joined us virtually. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And from this point, we'll take a detour to look at the power sector and what seems to be a continuous decentralization of that sector following the enactment of the Electricity Act 2023. Stay with us for that conversation. We'll be right back.